In the mid-19th century, the European economy sat in a period of relative calm, defined by stable borders and an expanding network of free trade. Then, the cost of moving goods across the ocean simply collapsed. The rapid expansion of railroads and the invention of the steamship made it suddenly viable to transport massive cargo hauls across the globe. This triggered the grain invasion. Massive yields of cheap agricultural products from the vast plains of the American Midwest and Ukraine began flooding into European ports. This chart shows the immediate European grain market crash. The sudden, overwhelming oversupply of foreign wheat caused domestic commodity prices to drop off a cliff. For the urban working class, this price crash was an absolute miracle. Cheap imported bread meant their grocery bills shrank and their overall living standards rose. But the landed elite and domestic farmers panicked. Their primary source of wealth was tied directly to those grain prices, and they watched their land values rapidly evaporate. Nations were suddenly forced into an existential political choice: let the citizens eat cheaply, or step in to save the elite producers from financial ruin. Germany felt this pressure immediately. Their agricultural elite, the Prussian Junkers, mobilized quickly to demand political protection from the foreign grain. Bismarck responded by forging what became known as the marriage of iron and rye, an alliance between panicked agricultural elites and the heavy industry sector, both of which wanted tariffs. This graph tracks the Prussian-Danish price gap. The dark line represents the German tariff, rising to force domestic prices up. France took an identical path. The top chart shows the French tariff acting as a massive wall to shield domestic farmers from global competition. Across the protectionist continent, governments decided that the political survival of the domestic producer was far more important than the economic benefits of global integration. Great Britain took the opposite approach. Their agricultural sector was relatively tiny, and a massive industrialized working class held enough political leverage to demand that food stay cheap. They refused to build tariff walls. Denmark diverged even further. Instead of panicking over the sudden influx of foreign wheat, they fully embraced the global price shock. They realized this cheap grain was an inexpensive raw input. They imported it in bulk, feeding it directly to their domestic livestock. Denmark pivoted from mass-market grain to become a specialized exporter of premium bacon, butter, and cheese. Their success suggests that structural economic adaptation can be a far more lucrative response to global shocks than political insulation. Across the Atlantic, the economic logic reversed. The United States possessed abundant land but scarce capital. That meant its agricultural sector was highly competitive globally, thriving as an aggressive exporter under free trade. But American manufacturers were operating infant industries. Terrified of cheap European factory goods flooding their local markets, they lobbied aggressively for massive industrial tariffs and won them. A nation's trade policy is rarely an accident. It is usually dictated by whichever factor of production, land, labor, or capital, holds the most political leverage at home. By 1900, the liberal dream of universal free trade had been buried by a fractured map of localized tariff walls. These events reveal that globalization is not a technological inevitability, but a political choice. While opening borders creates massive overall wealth, it also shifts exactly who controls that wealth within a society. This same dynamic drives modern trade disputes, with political friction rising whenever domestic sectors face sudden foreign competition. When the domestic losers of a trade shock are ignored, they find their voice at the ballot box, turning the machinery of government against the global market.